Schon gar nicht geistig.
Welcome to Art Slice, a palatable serving of art history.
What?
What are you wearing?
What?
I'm Stephanie Duenas.
And I can't find the microphone. And I'm Russell Shoemaker. Where's the microphone? Stephanie?
Yes.
Where are you? What are we talking about today?
Today we will be discussing Alexander Calder's Silver Bedhead from 1946, commissioned by Peggy Guggenheim, which I am assuming you already know a thing or two about because you are wearing an imitation of her legendary bat sunglasses.
I don't know what you're talking about. It was sunny out today. I forgot my sunglasses. I made some sunglasses. What? What of it?
Okay, you just whipped up a pair of sunglasses like
some
salad.
sunglasses,
Okay.
yes.
Just threw some things together,
that's
called
what
it a
happens
day.
when you're an artist, Steph. You can just whoop stuff up.
Whoop stuff up.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. All right.
Okay.
Well,
maybe we should just move on. Get on with it.
Okay. So those sunglasses kind of sum up Peggy.
My sunglasses.
Sure, your sunglasses, because they are one of a kind and they are unforgettable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like me.
Exactly. So just like you, she was quite the character, and not like you, she was extremely influential, and she had
arguably.
That's true. I guess it depends what the scale and scope is, right? Okay.
I could have a lot of influence in small doses, and those could add up to be a huge influence.
Okay.
You don't know.
Maybe you're aspiring.
I'm still on the
to
trajectory of my life. You're judging her whole life. I've just started mine.
True. Maybe you're aspiring to reach Peggy status.
I'm forging my own path. I don't have to aspire to.
Okay. All right. So back Peggy. Let's talk about Peggy.
Can I take these off? I can't see you.
I'm sure you can see because they're sunglasses, and you whipped them up just right.
I know. There's no like holes in them.
Okay, so Peggy had a hand
block
in
out all the sun and everything.
The careers of many modern artists that we know today. So, listeners, this episode is going to be a world-building episode.
Okay, so get out your notebook, your paper, your pen, your sticky notes, whatever you need.
Whatever you need. We are going to be introducing a lot of characters, including Alexander Calder, who made this piece that was commissioned by Peggy. Peggy also exhibited many, many, many artists in her lifetime. So I have a list here of many of those artists so we can get a sense of Peggy's reach, if you will.
Okay.
And we're going to read them. And Russell, I think you might want to take off your Peggy sunglasses for this. Listeners, we highly recommend that you go to our website to see all of the images and videos we discuss in today's episode, and that's artslicepod.com. Or you can go to our Instagram and see some of the images at artslicepod. Okay, Russell, I've split this list. I'm going to take one, and you take the other.
Okay, we're going to read them at the same time. It's kind of like a little race.
Yeah. Ready?
Piet Mondrian,
George
Virginia
Brock,
Admiral,
Pablo Picasso,
Jackson
Leonora
Pollock,
Carrington,
Mark Rothko,
Jean Arp,
Robert
Jean Cocteau,
De Niro
Giorgio De
Sr.,
Chirico, Lee
Lenore
Krasner,
Feeney,
Marc
Frida
Chagall,
Kahlo,
Antoine
Moret
Pevsner,
Oppenheimer,
Rufino Tamayo,
Kay Sage,
Gino Severini,
Dorothea Tanning,
Salvador Dali,
Luis Bourgeois,
Yves Tanguy,
Joseph
Alberto
Cornell,
Giacometti,
Hans Hoffman,
Vasily Kandinsky,
Irene Rice
Maria
Pereira,
Elena
William D.
Meira da
Kooning,
Silva,
Marc Chagall,
Constantine
Juan
Brancusi,
Miro,
Ferdinand
Rita Kern
Leger,
Larson,
Sonia Sekula,
Wolfgang
Roberto
Palin.
Mata. If you're there on a quiet day, you can hear footsteps echoing, and when you're near the windows facing the canal, you can hear the waves lapping up the sides of the palazzo. There are masterpieces everywhere you look. A Pollock here, a Picasso there, even Peggy's furniture are works of art. I would even say those terrazzo floors are as mesmerizing as the works hanging on the walls. But then there's the bedhead, a sculptural composition made up of elegant, floating silver lines hanging in a room with windows facing the canal. This piece served as a headboard above Peggy's bed when the space it lived in was her bedroom. This is Peggy Guggenheim, a woman so obsessed with art that she couldn't settle for anything less than fabulous for a headboard while living in Venice, Italy, a city that is a work of art in itself. So this is Peggy's palace, or palazzo. Peggy Guggenheim was not your typical wealthy art collector who will either hide their art jewels in their castle or their palazzo and or store it in a bank vault where no one can appreciate them.
But it could appreciate in value, Stephanie.
Well,
it's like keeping a stock in your back pocket so you can buy that fifth home when you need to.
Yeah, but no one can appreciate it. And like art was meant to be seen and to be displayed.
No, but I saw a lot of work in people's homes when I would pick up work from collectors when I worked in a gallery back in the day.
Okay.
So we would borrow work for exhibits, and they were nice enough to lend them to us. So it would be very normal to see a Picasso just hanging in the living room next to a bad couch, you know, an ugly couch.
An ugly couch.
Or
okay.
I saw Louis Bourgeois once on top of a kitchen countertop, on top of like some receipts, I think.
Oh, great, as a paperweight.
Like kind of
Neat.
a paperweight, yeah.
Neat.
Must be nice.
Yeah, that's a word for it. Okay, so Peggy was a little bit like that, but she lived in her museum, which was her home. So she decorated with these pieces by artists that you would now find in any modern art museum.
Mm-hmm.
But she let visitors in to her home to check out the works, to visit them, right?
Okay, so big difference there.
Huge. While she was still alive, mind you, not like, oh, I'll let the regular folk in
She's
once
letting
I
the
die.
civilians in.
No,
the
yeah,
normies.
she's well and alive. She's
Yeah.
letting people in. I mean, no, she's probably not mingling with them. I think she would probably go up to the roof and sunbathe.
Stay away from the civilians.
So, Russell,
Stephanie.
do you recall Kandinsky?
I do. Vasily Kandinsky. He was one of the first abstract artists. We covered him in the first episode, that haystack feeling.
Did you say
Vasily
Fusilli?
Kandinsky, yes.
That's like the pasta?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's Vasily.
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 Not Fusili.
No, don't be silly. Glad we got that.
But yeah, I
figured out.
remember him.
Peggy gave him his first one-man show in England.
Okay.
And she featured Leonora Carrington and Frida Kahlo in the first all-women exhibition in New York City.
New York City.
New York City. Basically,
Wait. I think Frida had some sharp words for LC. Were they both there? I gotta know. Was there some drums?
She did have some words, and
Yeah.
I don't think they were in the gallery at the same time,
Okay.
if at all.
Okay. Because I'm imagining, the screen where you select your player before they battle in like Mortal Kombat. So you have,
Oh my God.
they're just doing that movement over and over again.
Because they're getting ready to
well, it's just like the animation's just looping.
Okay.
So you see LC and she's standing behind like a bunch of hyenas, a wall of hyenas, and she's flipping a nickel, It's like looking real mean. She's got that witch hat hair.
Okay.
And then Frida's on the other end. She's in her wheelchair. And what's that? There's spikes on the wheelchair. And what's that? It's Super Communist Baby floating above her.
What? Oh
with his
my
Karl
God,
Marx
what?
beard and his sickle, just ready to pounce.
Okay.
Did that happen? Did they throw down?
Listeners, Russell's just kind of doing the same movement, the loop,
Yeah.
back and forth. That would have been quite the spectacle.
Okay.
Can you imagine? I'm thinking about a cartoon Scruffle where you just see like a blur of arms and legs,
Little hyena paws,
tufts of fur,
little flowers flying
Frida's
everywhere.
flowers, a part of her skirt, and then Leonora's loafers. I don't know. I know she wears loafers. I like those loafers. So just like a big old blur. Anyway, if you walk into any modern art wing in any museum, Peggy likely had a hand in introducing those artists to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't just collect and sell these artists' work. She knew them, she partied with them, she knew all the tea. Sometimes she discovered them, and sometimes she may have had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 affairs with a lot of them.
Peggy's a complicated character.
She is.
But I think it takes someone who isn't afraid of crossing societal norms to carve a pathway for what is considered unconventional. So at this time, these artists were considered radical, or worse, they were just thought of as these weird amateur artists, right? And now they're part of this like art historical canon. But it's really easy to forget how shocking many of them were. And Peggy, she wasn't like afraid to like chill with them and hang out with them.
Well, she also had a weird life growing up. Like she was ultra wealthy, but when she was really young, she worked at a bookstore in Manhattan. It was like an avant-garde bookstore. So it was like out there, right? It was kind of like art that was unconventional,
right?
Essentially is what avant-garde means. It's
Yeah.
on the fringe, right? It's like if you're cool, you know.
Yeah, it's an unmarked door. You got to like knock a certain way to get in, and then you have to step into a telephone booth, and then the telephone booth flips upside down.
Okay.
And then you got to go through like this little hamster maze, and then finally when you get there and you ring the electric doorbell, they let you in, and that door has a jointed cardboard Santa Claus, the little hula hoop.
Oh.
And you gotta make his legs move in a particular direction.
Okay. Okay.
But you get inside and there it is. There's the bookstore.
Okay.
They don't sell many books.
Okay. Yes, they do. Yes. Okay.
They don't get a lot of foot traffic is what I'm saying.
Okay. Well,
there's a lot of skeletons you have to cross to like get to the door.
Okay. All right. Maybe not this store. This one also doubled as an art gallery, and it was at this bookstore that Peggy fell in love with art, and she also fell in love with the artist making them, right? She's very interested in the artist. She thought they were interesting people, but this was her introduction to the art world and how weird and, I don't know, progressive it could be.
Okay.
So her life became consumed with art, right? And she would spend her whole life chasing that thrill.
That sweet high, that art high. You gotta boil a painting down, inject it into your veins.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
Do that, kids.
Don't do that. There would be times in Peggy's life where she would try to fit herself into a normal life to, raise a family or to be a wife, but she would always come back to art. The early morning sun is in your eyes as it begins illuminating the palm trees swaying above and the rolling mountains beyond. The sound of musical horns and drums gilds the air among the chatter of the crowd as they buzz with excitement. But then the sound of horses clomping grows louder and louder, and then one after another, horse-drawn floats, all decorated with a variety of flowers and grasses, pass by Lil Calder. He's never seen anything like it. There was something about the driver guiding the horse's movement, their legs galloping in unison, and they were gone as soon as they came. But the image of the large and magnificent creatures was one that impressed his memory and would find its way into his work years later. Okay, listeners, so Lil Calder is watching Pasadena's Tournament of Roses roll by for the first time in 1907. So he's just moved to Pasadena, California, all the way from Pennsylvania on the East Coast. This is not the Southern California as we know today, though, but those relaxed California vibes were definitely there.
Okay, are you sure about that? It is in 1907. There is a bunch of dust still from the dirt roads.
Yeah. It comes with the environment. It comes with the nature, I think.
Okay.
So totally.
Okay.
That probably helped.
I mean, you're Cali born, so I will defer to you.
That's right. Thanks for reminding me. I am Cali born. Thank you very much. So Lil Calder's, Sandy's. We're going to call Lil Calder Sandy
because of all the dust.
No.
That's like on his body from...
No.
You're just kind of mistaking it for sand?
No. So his full name is Alexander Calder, and he actually went by Sandy. He was known by Sandy.
He went by Sandy?
Yeah, I mean, not...
Everybody thought he had sandy blonde hair from all the dust.
Not quite.
Okay.
Not quite. I could see that, maybe. But professionally, he was known as Alexander Calder, but he was known amongst his family and friends by Sandy. So we're going to call him Sandy. Okay? All right. Sandy's parents were bohemian artists, so he spent a lot of time around their artist friends. These artists would probably be considered more craft artists since what they make has a functional or design purpose.
So this is something that hasn't really come up yet in Art Slice. The difference between fine art and craft art. It's pretty subjective.
The pantry mon seemed to be hungry.
Okay, I know we were on vacation last week, but I left them that automated feeder. They should be also, they don't even have mouths, Steph. They just absorb it into their bloodstream. It's really strange. And they're cute, but they're also a little bit horrifying. So I'm a little surprised they're so hungry.
Okay, let's go to the Art Slice pantry. Vamos.
Okay, let's go. So the difference between fine art and craft art, it's really pretty subjective, and they overlap a lot. But the most general distinction would be craft wouldn't be concerned with speaking of pain through symbols and subversive imagery like, say, Frida Kahlo did. Craft would be closer to Charles Birchfield's wallpaper work, which was a proficient depiction that could be used to decorate your home, or it could be something functional like a handmade ceramic cup or some jewelry. The word craft is also used sometimes to discuss the technical quality of an artist's work, the skill and care that artist puts into that work. A good example of this is when we talked about Edvard Munch way back in episode 3. We thought the Scream was poorly executed. In other words, we discussed how the craft was subpar, but we thought a lot of his other pieces were made with a high level of craft, even though they were similar to the scream stylistically speaking. So craft in this definition means it is executed in a highly intentional and skilled way, similar to the other definition of craft, which is craft art, which would mean like a well-made piece of jewelry, for example. The takeaway from all of this is that craft matters no matter what kind of work you're making or your stylistic approach as an artist. You can make sloppy abstract work and still have a high level of craft. You can make traditional craft style work, a la ceramic cups or jewelry, with a poor level of craft. Whatever it is you make, whether that is craft art or fine art, whatever you want to call it, just have pride in your craft.
Russell, thank you for that art slice pantry entry.
Our little Ponchamon's tummies have been satiated once again. You know, they could be a little bit difficult to deal with, but overall, listeners, we love them. We love them. Okay, let's get back to Pasadena.
All right, so you have to imagine that while Sandy's parents were working in their studios, they set up a little studio space for Sandy.
Okay, like a play kitchen, a little plastic kitchen that you give the kiddos.
Little artist studio plastic.
Yeah. So there's like colorful plastic tools. You get a plastic hammer, plastic nails. You have a plastic miter box that you kind of saw a fake wood piece in half that had like pre-cut.
There's a couple problems with that scenario, as much as I love it.
Okay.
Number one, plastic wasn't invented yet.
You don't know that.
You're right. I wasn't there.
You don't know
You're
that.
right. You're right. Number two, he actually was working with sheet metal and wire.
Okay,
like the
so
real
just
deal.
the sharpest material ever. Just little baby fingers touching the sharpest material ever.
Well,
I mean, they don't have much blood in their bodies, Steph.
Okay.
They're a little bit smaller.
Okay, well, he probably had gloves.
Well, what's going to happen if he hemorrhages?
He was fine.
All right.
He was fine. So when he was 11, he made this little rocking duck out of sheet metal. So you would tap it, and then the distribution of the weight would make it rock back and forth for a little while on its own.
Sounds a little bit like a kinetic sculpture.
Yeah, doesn't it? Interesting.
Yeah, and interesting. This little duck was so important to him that he made sure it was in his retrospective, which, listeners, a retrospective for an artist is showing a selection of their work from their entire career up to that point. So usually you don't put the painting you painted for your mom in third grade that she like says is going to be worth millions one day into the retrospect. But he chose to put this little duck in. I mean, that's pretty interesting. It's an interesting choice.
No finger turkeys here. He also, aside from making rocking ducks and little animals out of sheet metal, he also made miniature jewelry for his little sister's dolls.
Okay.
Yeah, he used copper wire and beads that he found on his long walks in Pasadena.
A basement. Yeah, that he was peering through the window. I know.
I
He's got those tough hands from working with that sheet metal, getting all those cuts, those nicks and cuts, so you can just break glass with his bare hands as a little 11-year-old and just slide in like a slippery snake into the basement, steal all the copper wiring while everyone's asleep, slip out.
Okay.
He seems like a good brother, but the neighbors aren't so happy.
I would say that would be pretty sweet. So while Sandy was surrounded by all of this creative encouragement, all this creative energy, he actually decided instead to study mechanical engineering once he grew up and he went to college. While that might seem kind of random, just think of that little rocking duck. So with that engineering experience, he actually ends up landing a job in the Navy. So he's on a naval ship in 1922, sailing from New York to San Francisco via the Panama Canal. Quote, "It was early one morning on a calm sea off Guatemala when over my couch, a coil of rope, I saw the beginning of a fiery red sunrise on one side and the moon looking like a silver coin on the other. Of the whole trip, this impressed me most of all. It left me with a lasting sensation of the solar system." End quote. So he is just struck by the balance of the moon and the sky at the same time.
I mean, that had to be a magical, like once-in-a-lifetime moment. You have to be near the equator, first of all, and then you have to catch it at the right time. That's pretty phenomenal.
So you have to be by the equator, right time of day, right time of year.
You have to be awake.
The weather has to be clear. That's at least five different things that could make it or break this moment, right? So he is so moved, he decides to abandon his Navy engineering career and pursue art after this experience. He's just that moved. All right, so about the same time that Calder has this life-altering experience out on the equator at sea, Peggy's back in New York City.
New York City.
She's also had a life-altering change, a change to her pockets, if you will. She's inherited a fortune.
Got some of that E4 GP.
Okay, I guess.
Etzelford gold poundage.
She has set sail for Paris, naturally, right? How does she get all this money, you ask? Peggy's papa, Benjamin Guggenheim, Died on the Titanic.
Okay.
Yes, so he died when she was only 13, and so Peggy wasn't allowed to touch that inheritance until she turned 21. So when she did inherit it, she got $2.5 million. And that was back in the day. Today it would be upwards of $36 million.
A small home in California.
Modest home in California. After he died, Peggy just rejected that bougie lifestyle that she was born into. She kind of became a little rebel. She shaved her eyebrows off. So she was born different, and she was really trying to lean into being different.
Okay, by shaving her eyebrows off.
Right, right. So do you remember that bookstore that she worked at?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I imagine the shaved eyebrows, that's part of the secret code. Like, they got to rub their faces together in concentric circles in order to get into the secret bookstore.
Okay. Maybe.
A lot of rubbing in these secret bookstores.
Stop saying rubbing. Okay, maybe. All right, well, anyway, while she worked there, she started running around with these artists and authors. And so in 1920, she decides to do what all of the artists are doing, and that is to move to Paris.
It's where all the eyebrowless vanguards go, Stephanie.
I guess so.
Okay.
I mean, it is the 20s now, right? Very thin eyebrows are in vogue.
I thought they were thick at this time.
Mm-mm.
Okay, all right.
No, not at all.
All right.
Super thin. Okay, listeners, let's go back to Sandy. He's left that engineering job, and now after a couple of years of studying art, he decides that he too should head to Paris. So we keep ending up in Paris, but as a reminder, listeners, Paris was the center of the art world. For now.
So it was a booming time for Paris. Parisians and expats alike were just living it up. Money is flowing. Absinthe is flowing. Artists are flocking there because they can drink absinthe in this exciting atmosphere. So, they're all going there. And why wouldn't you, right?
Sounds like a good creative time.
Yeah.
So Sandy's in Paris and he's hanging out with all these artists. At this point, he has mostly given up on the sculptures that he loved to make in his childhood, and he's now painting in oil.
Yeah, he's painting your normal stuff, still lifes, self-portraits, city landscapes, horrifying clowns that are not connected to the still life that he is painting. They're just kind of floating there.
It's kind of weird.
Kind of disconnected from the general. Yeah, anyway. They're not bad. They're just nothing really that special.
Right. But his love for the circus shows through. He loved the circus as a child, especially trapeze artists and horses and just all of the movement and choreography that goes with the circus act.
He's really into movement, I think is what we're getting at, listeners.
So in Paris, he starts going to the circus again.
A little bit different. He's like, okay, this is a different vibe entirely. And he goes to the French circus. French circus, it's like the dark arts of the circus.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's a clown experiencing ennui. There's lots of tears.
What was that?
Les ennuis du les clowns.
What?
Les bouffons.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa.
I know a little French.
You speak French?
No, I don't speak French. I know a little French. Okay?
I
watched Musi as a kid.
What is Musi?
Tapes of Musi. It's like a really old French language thing for kids that I found, I think, in a church basement.
Okay.
So it was before my time, but
love it. Okay, I am impressed. Listeners, we are both learning in real time, you and me, about Russell's
if I'm on
French
a flight
skills.
to Montreal and I'm sitting next to a French couple, I will absolutely forget how to say excuse me, just in pure panic. I know what it is. I just forgot it. I just said it louder. I was like, excuse me. If I say it louder, they'll understand what I mean.
Okay. Joking. Okay. He's joking, everybody.
I'm not. That happened. That's real.
No, but okay. All right. Moving on. Let's move on from that bouffon. Just kidding. All right. So Sandy begins making wire sculptures of the acrobats, the circus performers, the animals, and the erotic dancers that he's seeing at these events. So he would capture the figures in mid-motion with wire like you would with pencil on paper, except that the air was his canvas and it was infinite.
These works remind me of art that is somewhere in between 3D and 2D work. They look like drawings, but he's drawing with wire, like Stephanie was saying, and that wire is then placed on a small pedestal. I mean, these have to be like 5-6 inches tall. I'm not sure how tall they are.
They're bigger.
Yeah, they're a little bigger.
I mean, they're not that big, but they're bigger than that.
Yeah, but they look like very minimal drawings turned into sculptures, if that makes sense.
So he's taking the wire and he's turning it, twisting it in order to look like these forms in movement. He's thinking about how all of the performers and animals move at the circus, right? So he starts making toys. And with these toys, he's playing with different ways that objects can move. Then Sandy decides he's going to make his own miniature circus.
What?
Miniature circus.
No.
Cirque de Calder.
No.
Let's go to Cirque de Calder.
No.
Let's go. Vámonos.
Okay, so he's got a suitcase. He's got 2 suitcases. Say Calder on them. Does he really need to show that he's unpacking everything?
Someone's yelling in French. Is that the ringleader?
What?
There's a horse.
The fuck?
There's a horse.
How is it moving?
I don't know. What? What is that? What
It's
is that?
a little
dancing mouse?
rat.
Oh my gosh.
It's standing on its hind legs. It's got 6 feet.
So he's pulling it with a wire and it's making all its little legs move forward.
Okay.
What
We got
is
like
this?
a Pegasus on a I don't even know what that is. A cart? Wait, he's blowing something now. What is that?
There's
trombone?
a little trumpet. Oh, it's
He's
a trombone.
dropped a cigarette.
He dropped a cigarette?
I think so.
Stop the car.
He's gonna set this guy on
He
fire.
has stuck a cigarette into this clown's face and now he's lighting the cigarette.
That's a bear.
It's a bear?
I think it's a bear.
Why does it have orange hair? He's puffing. Oh, it's a balloon. Calder's blowing into this tube that is blowing a balloon through the doll.
And listeners, Calder is right behind these. It's not like it's like he's hiding behind some screen.
He's laying behind.
His face is turning red. He's blowing this giant balloon out of this bear.
No, but he's pulling on a string that's making them like go back and forth. That's awesome.
Okay, now you're just getting lazy, Calder. He's just moving them with his hands at this point.
Why are they clapping? That is not what I was expecting.
I mean, this is all very silly, right? But working in the studio doesn't have to be this stoic, ultra high pressure time. It should be fun, right?
Yeah.
Allowing yourself as an artist to just try whatever the fuck you want to out can actually really open up a lot of possibilities for you because you're not just an artist, you're also a creative problem solver. And by giving yourself problems to solve, even if they're just silly like circus problems, you're actually allowing yourself to experiment, and that experimentation can open up the doorways for you so all these like magical art things can happen.
Right. For Sandy, all of this playful studio experimentation led him to notice that what he was really interested in maybe wasn't circuses or dancers or frolicking animals. But what do all those have in common? Movement.
Okay.
He begins to make what he is known for, which is mobiles.
Yeah.
So, no, Russell, I'm interrupting you because I know you're starting to say, no, not mobile phones.
Okay.
Not an automobile.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking
not
that
a baby
either.
mobile.
Well, definitely wasn't thinking that one.
Okay, well, so when Sandy was a kiddo and he made that rocking duck, what he was really making was
with his twisted, gnarled hands.
Okay, all right.
Calloused hands. Lots of little glass stuck in them.
We don't know that. Oh, poor guy. I really hope he was wearing
There
gloves.
are more scabs than there are hands.
What he was really making was a kinetic sculpture, which, Russell, you alluded to earlier. That is a type of sculpture that's based on balance and equilibrium. So unlike traditional sculpture, which at this time was pretty much static and dense.
Yeah, I mean, well, think of Augusta Savage's piece, which we loved.
It
was more traditional sculpture, right? It was this big monolithic piece.
Doesn't really move.
Does not move. You move around it.
There you go. Sandy's mobiles, though, they are in constant motion and they are constantly changing their shape. They're made up of abstract shapes on these long, elegant lines
They
and
kind of look like a drawing.
In a way, yes.
Yeah, once again, like his little wire sculptures.
Yes, but it's in the air, and they pivot with the slightest current of air, and that lets the shapes twist and turn and twirl. Very beautiful, very elegant, and it's very similar to baby mobiles, for reference, but his came first.
They did? I'm not going to lie. I have walked past so many Sandy mobiles.
Right.
In museum. I mean, I've probably seen like half a dozen at least and just walking right by them. I don't think I've ever seen them move.
Really?
Like, ever. I'm pretty sure, Steph, they place them where they won't move very much so they don't have to pay to preserve them.
Well, I've certainly seen them move.
Okay.
Yeah, at least once, but we'll get to that. So Sandy's mobiles vary in size. Some are meant to live in a small indoor space, like a wealthy collector's home. Some are large and were meant to be outdoors, like outdoor sculptures. The mobile arms and rods are usually slender, and the shapes that are attached to them are geometric or organic.
They kind of look like guitar pick, like very strange guitar picks.
Yes, actually, yes, that's good. So Sandy had a very minimal palette for most of his work. His sculptures, his mobiles, whatever else he made.
Yeah, they all had very stripped down colors. They were very, they'd be orange or blue or green or black.
Maybe it's a combo
of those, but they're not like, there's no gradation. There's no fluctuation from color to color. It's just a solid color per piece.
They are often displayed above your head or in an atrium where it might be kind of easy to miss.
Yeah, they kind of look like mid-century modern lawn art, these mobile pieces. They have a very minimal design to them.
Yeah.
They, like I said, they look like minimal drawings in a way. If they're not in front of a white wall, you might miss them. Like if the place that they're installed is too noisy, like there's too much visual noise around it, then you're going to miss them.
Yeah, and I may have very well walked past several, not even realized it. And I mean, I was kind of meh about Sandy's work before experiencing them in person, only by seeing them in photographs. Okay, I know this sounds terrible, but don't worry. I got to experience one firsthand.
Okay.
I had to protect an out-of-control Calder mobile once.
Okay, so it's the opposite of not moving. It's
the opposite of not
too
moving.
much.
Moving too much and definitely experiencing the opposite of what you're describing.
Okay. I'm curious to hear about this.
One day we were extremely busy and the museum was crowded and it was super windy that day. And as more people came in, they kept opening the doors on either side of this mobile.
Creating like a vortex.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like I felt like 5 different gale winds would come in every time the door would open. These mobiles are supposed to move like nice and elegant and slow and just gracefully. No. This thing
was crazy.
Was
going haywire.
Was turning and it was spinning almost out of control.
So you're dodging pedals, you're barking at tourists, trying to get them out of the way.
I mean, this was for everyone's safety, okay? Yeah. My body was somehow going to shield this sculpture that was wider and taller than me. I was scared. I was scared for the mobile, but it's pretty hardy. Moral of the story, Russell, they move. Calder mobiles
Be careful.
Move. Be careful. Stand back. Don't underestimate how fast it can turn.
Okay. So be scared. Be a little scared of the Calder mobiles.
Have a healthy respect.
Yeah.
And
like
fear.
you would for a bear. Like listeners, when you walk into a modern art wing and you think there might be a mobile there, start clapping. What? Hey, mobile. Hey, mobile, just to alert yourself to its presence so it doesn't act out of fear.
We're going to alert the guards and you might be
mobile.
removed and possibly banned.
Hey listeners, real quick, just so you know, you can still grab a 3-pack of the Art Slice stickers, including the creepy bumper sticker that says, listen to Art Slice or the devil will get you. Sorry about that. It's from a billboard that we saw somewhere in, I don't know, fucking the south of America somewhere. And it comes with a holographic sticker that I'm hiding from Stephanie so she doesn't take them
I don't
all.
know where the stash is.
And the clear sticker as well.
They look good on cars, bicycles, laptops, water bottles.
Butts, you can put them on butts. Put them on your cat's butt too if you want to. That'd be a little mean. Anyway,
painful.
We're going to get back to the episode. Just head on over to our website or our Instagram, grab a pack. It really does help support the show.
All right, so let's fast forward to the late 1930s. At this point, Peggy has lived several lives. She had a very complicated personal life that we are not really going to get into this time around because it overshadows her story.
Peggy is going to be a reoccurring character in the Art Sliceverse, so don't worry.
Peggy has been mulling over whether to open an art gallery or to start a publishing company.
All those mills. All those mills she's carrying around?
Burning holes in her pockets.
All right.
So she was neither a writer, nor an artist, nor an art historian. But she's got these big ideas,
She's got the
right?
money, though, right?
Got the money and got the big
ideas.
ideas.
That's all you really need in this world.
Okay. Well, she goes with the latter. She decides to open an art gallery. And I think maybe Marcel Duchamp nudged her a bit. Here's someone with a boatload of money who wants to put it towards some creative good, right? And then here's Marcel, like whispering in her ear, invest in the art, Peggy.
That's all fine and good, Steph, but who the hell is Marcel Duchamp?
Oh, who's Marcel Duchamp? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Another character in the Art Sliceverse. Okay.
Yes.
Marcel Duchamp is probably best known for his work Nude Descending a Staircase, which is a painting from 1912. And then later he would become known for a totally different work called Fountain from 1917, which is just a urinal. That's all I'm going to say about it for now. He was an artist who did his own thing entirely, but he walked amongst all these different groups of artists in Paris, like the Surrealists, the Dadaists, and he would become this crucial figure for the conceptual artwork to come in the following decades.
So yes, Marcel introduced Peggy to all of these different facets of the Parisian art world. Let's just say without Marcel, Peggy wouldn't have discovered many of the artists that she ended up collecting.
It helps if you know the right people.
Isn't that true, though?
Everywhere.
Every
unfortunately.
facet of your life, unfortunately. So the following year, Peggy opened her first gallery for modern art in London called Guggenheim Jeune, which means young in French. So she begins collecting works of art. She starts with buying at least one piece from each of her exhibitions at her gallery. While Guggenheim Jeune was popular, Peggy decides to close it after a year because she is already thinking about bigger ideas, like a full-fledged museum, but it's not what you're thinking. It's not the museum in New York City.
New York City.
New York City. All right, so Peggy may have been inspired by the Baroness Hilla von Reba. Baroness.
We got a Baroness now? We got erotic dancers. We got a circus maker. Ringleader, Calder, I don't know. We got eyebrowless ladies rubbing their faces to and fro.
Okay, yes.
And we got a Baroness now.
Like we mentioned before, listeners, I hope your seatbelts are fastened, okay? Just get ready.
Yeah, get out that notepad.
Baroness Hilla von Reba was...
McIntyre.
Excuse me? What was what was
Nothing.
that?
Baroness Hilla von Reba McIntyre.
Okay, well, she was Peggy's uncle's art advisor. Her uncle was Solomon Guggenheim. He was a lifelong art collector, and he had recently opened what is now known as the Guggenheim Museum in 1939.
Designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, along with the Baroness Hilla's direction. And she actually had envisioned the Guggenheim Museum in New York City, as a museum temple for abstract art. Okay, so Baroness Hilla, she had opened up the Museum of Non-Objective Painting in a former automobile showroom. We'll just call it the MONOP. The MONOP's walls were pleated gray velour, right?
Ooh.
It's like straight out of a David Lynch film.
Sorry, is this a Juicy Couture tracksuit?
What was that?
It was like a Juicy Couture tracksuit from the early 2000s.
The butts that say juicy.
Yeah.
I had
ridded your brain of
ridded my brain of those, and now you've entered them back into my brain reverse. Anyway, the MONOP's walls were pleated gray velour and had thick gray carpet. They would play classical music, and they would burn incense. You're supposed to go in there and experience the sights and sounds of abstract work, of non-objective work. So Baroness Hilla envisioned abstract art as this mystical language, and she wanted a space where a gallery goer could click into that feeling, that vibe, right?
So listeners, the MONOP became the Guggenheim.
Yeah, under Baroness Hilla's direction. So they moved from a little automobile showroom to a giant museum temple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In New York City.
It's quite the story. New York City. In August of 1939, with Nazi Germany beginning to close in on Poland.
So it sounds like our old friend, Mr. America, Henry Ford. His periodicals weren't that unpopular after all.
I guess not. Seems like
he's making it across the pond.
He was onto something.
Global distribution.
Okay.
What a good guy.
Okay. Peggy, along with a curator friend, makes a list of all of the artists that they would like to include in this new museum, and she leaves London for Paris to start collecting and gathering these artworks.
So there's so much going on here, listeners. Okay, France is becoming more paranoid about the Spanish Civil War that is happening next door in Spain, right? And now they have to deal with the encroaching Germans.
Right, so they are sandwiched between the two. Spain's on one side and Germany's on the other.
So France became stricter about the refugees and foreigners living in this country. And remember, listeners, Paris was the epicenter for artists from all over the world, including artists who came from Germany, who had already fled due to the rising Nazi regime. I mean, think no further than Kati Orna, Fusili Kandinsky, and, we talked about Max Ernst. So these are all characters that we've already discussed. If you remember our Three Witches episode, artists were beginning to flee to wherever they could. Sandy himself had also headed back to the United States, but before he left, he was actually commissioned to make a war protest piece for the 1937 World Exposition in Paris that was supported by the Spanish Republic government. So the leftists, the good guys, the anti-fascist Franks. The piece was called Mercury Fountain, and it was exhibited alongside Pablo Picasso's epic Guernica painting, as well as Juan Miro's The Reaper. And don't worry, listeners, we will absolutely cover these pieces in the future. Wink.
Winkety wink, wink, wink. All right, let's get back to Peggy. Peggy took off for Paris in August, but by September, with the imminent war looming, she realized that her museum was not going to happen. Not anytime soon, at least. So with her handy list, she is still determined to buy a picture a day, even though the war is breaking out.
And not to mention she is Jewish.
Time is ticking, and Hitler's army is getting closer and closer, and the artists are basically taking whatever they can for these artworks. They're probably not bargaining much, honestly,
right.
and if at all. And she is definitely capitalizing on that.
It's a blitzkrieg bargain.
When she's done, she's acquired 10 Picassos, 40 Ernst, 3 Man Rays, 3 Dalis, among many, many others for only $40,000, which is like $770,000 today.
Yeah, and this is a priceless collection. They don't even know how much this would go for nowadays.
I mean, millions.
Like we were saying, it's basically the modern art wing at any museum.
She got a steal, to say the least. Peggy was not going to leave Europe without these artworks. If they were confiscated by the Nazis, they would be considered degenerate art, and they would likely be destroyed.
She also, listeners, if you remember, marries Max Ernst out of convenience since he was a German citizen and he kept ending up in those French jails and internment camps.
So she ended up shipping them to the U.S. in a crate labeled as household items to get them through customs.
So, okay. I'm imagining basically you have the entire modern art wing of any museum, like I keep saying, just nestled in with casserole dishes and like socks and bras.
That's crazy to imagine. It really is. But she actually first tried getting the Louvre to safekeep them for her. So the Louvre is the home of the Mona Lisa in Paris, and it's also the world's largest art museum. And they were pretty much just like, we don't think these are worth saving. Okay, bye-bye.
And they bop her in the head with a baguette.
They bopped her in the head with a baguette.
I'm sure.
like baguette bopping, like boop.
Yeah, like whack-a-mole.
Sri, no, Peggy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah,
boop,
those crumbs get in your eyes. That's not fun.
What? So yes, they basically booped her with a baguette. And she's just like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Let me get my bras. All right, so Peggy escapes Europe just in time in 1941, and she heads back to her hometown of New York City.
New York City.
And while she did want to start a museum originally before the Nazis came rolling in, she ends up starting a new gallery called Art of the Century. And while we don't know if she really was influenced by MONOP, they certainly share some similarities.
It was also 4 blocks away from the MONOP, but who's counting? Who's counting blocks?
Well, it too was a very unconventional gallery, not only in the art that Peggy was displaying, but the gallery itself. So you may have seen curved walls or paintings hung off of the wall that you could actually pivot. You could actually pivot the paintings, kind of turn them. And sometimes music would be playing, and other times they would pipe in the sound of trains.
For those kooky surrealists getting all wacky.
Yeah. Well, so you could experience the wackiness, right?
Yeah.
Even the chairs themselves were works of art.
Even some of the chairs displayed works of art.
All of this was divided into 4 distinct spaces. There was the abstract gallery, a surrealist gallery, a commercial gallery, and a kinetic gallery where Sandy would have displayed his work, his kinetic sculptures.
Yeah.
So say what you will about Peggy. Maybe she was influenced by the Baroness's ideas, but the gallery was quite the spectacle, and Peggy was showing all kinds of artists that no one had seen before.
I mean, she's basically combining these scenes from Paris with this new budding American art scene.
So Sandy was already established before he mingled with Peggy. By this time, he was very prolific. He was blurring the line between craft and fine art.
We already fed you!
So he was blurring the line between craft and fine art with his mobiles, his circus, and he was also making jewelry that had a sculptural flair. His work fit in so well with the look and design of Art of the Century that, Peggy couldn't not display him. You know, maybe put away a few of those Picassos to make room for the Sandman.
The Sandman?
The Sandman.
Calling him the Sandman now? Okay. Anyway. Stephanie, I've been thinking about the mobiles, right?
Mobiles,
about how
yes.
they spin around. You're telling me about them just a few minutes ago.
Right.
Okay. So I was thinking if I made my own mobile,
Okay.
instead of the little guitar picks that it has,
Yeah.
it would have lots of little hands. And they would just I would prop it up on my shoulders.
Okay.
Instead of my shoulders.
Okay.
And I would go about my day, and these little hands would give me motivational butt smacks.
What?
Yeah, good game.
Butt spanks?
Yeah, butt spanks, motivational butt smacks. Okay, good game.
What? Oh, okay.
Good game.
Okay.
Like that, to keep me motivated and positive throughout the day. But then that made me think of if Calder did that and a strong breeze made its way into art of the century,
Okay.
and it started spanking the Picasso right in the naked cubist butts,
What?
Spank.
Okay, a lot of butts, a lot of
butts,
spanking.
a lot of butts, a lot of spanking.
Okay, let's
Well, you want to move past this? You don't want to linger?
No, I don't want to linger.
Okay, good game.
All right, so back to Peggy and Sandy. Peggy was just like, I gotta have a Calder. We know Peggy at this point. She loves drama. She loves being extra. So she somehow got her hands on a pair of handmade Sandy earrings that are basically giant mobiles, like a miniature version of his mobiles as earrings.
Yeah, I do not know how you would wear these, listeners.
I like them.
No, you would take a sip of your wine and you would dip them into the wine glass. You'd take a bite of your risotto. There'd be risotto on your Calder
Oh my gosh.
earring. It's making it sway in the wrong direction.
Okay. I think they're cool. We'll just disagree. Okay. That's fine. But they're beautiful. I like them. Anyway, Peggy, she needed something else by Calder.
She was over the risotto encrusted earrings that she has.
She's like, yo, Sandy, Sandman,
here we go.
you made me those gorgeous earrings, but could you make me a headboard? Because I'm having trouble sleeping. Get it? Because you're the Sandman.
Yeah, Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Gee, thanks, Sandy. I'll be waiting, she says.
Okay.
He doesn't get around to making it, and she finally confronts him at a gallery, and she's just like, yo, Sandman.
Yeah, now she's
where
getting,
is my bed?
Okay.
I needed it yesterday.
So she got a heaping helping of side eye from Sandy's wife, right?
Yeah. Honestly, Sandy probably just burst out laughing like, okay, all right, sure, Pegs. Get that to you next week.
And then they're fighting for a week, him and his wife, and he brings out the motivational butt smack mobile, and it's the
She's
wrong
not having
time,
it.
wrong place. He's like, I think this is going to cheer her up. Does not work.
Wrong.
No.
Sorely mistaken. Okay. Peggy closed the doors to Art of this Century after 5 years in 1947 and was pretty much already moving into another deal of the century, which was an 18th century palazzo that she found for sale on the Grand Canal in Venice, Italy. Even though this is where she would spend the rest of her life, the influence of Art of the Century continues reverberating to this day. With this move to Venice, Peggy had plans for a new venture, but this time it wouldn't be a commercial gallery. Her new palazzo was to house her collection and eventually become a museum. She even invited the public to visit it while she still lived there. She also had the Peggy effect on Venice and Italian artists in the same way she did in New York City at Art of the Century. Before Peggy opened her museum, when you thought of Venice and art, you may have thought of Venetian Renaissance masters like Titian or Tintoretto. But now, we can also think of modern artists like Sandy or Picasso. She's living among these artworks in a jewel of a city, which brings us to the piece we are talking about today.
Finally.
After a cast of characters and all kinds of transatlantic adventures. Yeah, well, anyway, this piece is unique to Peggy, unique to Sandy, and unique to Venice. Silver metal lines catch the light from the window, making them shimmer in the moonlight or sunlight. As you get closer, the lines come together to form all kinds of different flora and fauna. The slender silver lines have been hammered so there's indentations in the metal that reflect the light in several different directions, almost making them sparkle as if underwater. In Peggy's turquoise bedroom, it definitely looked right at home, as if it existed under shallow water on a sunny day when the sun rays penetrate the surface of the water and shine on everything underneath. Fish and dragonflies are suspended separately from the rest of the sculpture, so if there is even a hint of a breeze, the fish and dragonflies come to life. It is incredible how fitting it is for this work to have ended up in Venice, of all places, a city of light and water, as the sculpture itself seems to float.
Stephanie, we're here. We're at the Art Slice Museum on top of the Art Slice Hilltop, surrounded by the Candy and Condom Moat. The freshly built Charles Birchfield Biodome is glistening in the dusk.
Ooh.
And we have Sandy's, Mr. Sandman's, silver bedhead with us. To bring it back with us, we had to sneak it away in a camouflaged gondola. We had to serpentine through hundreds of giant, celestial, heavenly cruise ships.
Okay.
Unloading millions of tourists into Venice's crumbling streets.
Oh.
We had to maniacally check archaic maps, running into dozens of dead ends until we found the secret canal, which is really just a left and then another left and then like a right. You really can't miss it if you know what you're looking for. But this canal leads us straight to the interdimensional river that feeds directly into this very art slice candy and condom moat.
Yes.
And we have to decide. Well, actually, I don't even think I want to ask you.
Why don't you want to ask me?
Because I already know what you're going to say.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. What? What am I going to say?
You're going to say, oh, Russell, but it deserves to be in the Peggy Guggenheim Museum in Venice, Italy, where it was intended to be. And you're just trying to take something from a place it doesn't belong, and I don't want to have to repatriate it later. Ooh. So, Stephanie.
Oh, my God.
I got you, didn't I?
Well, you're wrong.
Oh, God.
You are
No,
wrong.
I was right until I said that, and then you're like, nope. I want to throw a left jab.
I don't know what a left jab is, but you are wrong.
Okay,
No.
so you're going to take it from the Peggy Guggenheim collection.
Listen, obviously the Art Slice Museum is in the future. Venice is
No,
sinking.
the Art Slice Museum is here. It's now.
Venice is sinking.
Okay.
We're going to rent a big boat, drive up to the PGC, we're going to break in, take it, zoom away. So I took you by surprise, huh?
No, I think you had this planned. I think you saw where I was going to go, and then you had an option A and an option B, and you went to option B.
I have an option C. We leave it in Venice.
Okay.
It goes down with Venice, okay? Ride or die.
Okay.
PGC underwater.
Okay, I like this. I like this
It's
one.
going to happen.
All right.
I'm going to take advantage of technology. We're going to bring Sandy back from the dead. I'm going to commission a piece. I'm going to have my own silver bedhead.
Okay.
My own.
Your own.
Steph and Sandy collab.
Okay.
Very excited about this. You didn't see that one coming.
There's some problems.
Which part?
Well, besides for the fact that, I don't want to get gruesome, but there's probably not a lot of him left. I'm not sure what sort of zombie. He had those gristled hands.
Oh my God. That's
I don't know
the
how
only
he's
thing in the
gonna-
coffin are the hands.
Maybe you can put them on a ghost body and they can do the work.
No, I'm thinking something cleaner, more like movie appropriate. Something easy, an easy movie ending. You're just taking the DNA, you're cloning it somehow. And somehow it's Sandy with all of this life experience and all of this artistic experience.
Okay.
And he's okay with having been brought back from the dead to make me, Stephanie from Art Slice, from my Art Slice Museum. He's totally cool with this. This is the world that Plan C is going to thrive in.
Okay. Okay. Wow, we are...
Okay.
Okay, so what do you like about the work?
I like that it's shiny.
Okay. Check one off the old Stephanie checklist. I'm not too surprised by that. That may surprise you.
Well, it's shiny for several different reasons, right? It's made of silver.
Yeah, shiny material. Yeah.
But it's also what Sandy is doing to the silver. So he uses this hammering technique that makes the light, any kind of light, artificial or natural light, bounce off of it.
Now, are you sure, Stephanie, he's not just using his gristled fingers, his little gristled mitt paws, to peel and meld the silver by himself?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That is quite the image.
Okay, but what you're saying is basically he is hammering the silver, this thin silver, to create multiple planes on this metal silver wire so that it reflects light in different directions.
Kind of like a disco ball. In a way,
okay.
Less like dramatic.
Yeah, all right. I got you.
That is the first aspect that really catches my attention.
So why don't we back up a little bit and describe the materials, describe what we're looking at, because this is a sculpture. It's not as easy as talking about just like a painting on the wall.
Right.
But it's also not a typical sculpture either, because it's Sandy. It's the Sandman.
It is the Sandman, and he is very unique, just like this piece. Okay, so let's just start with scale so we know exactly how much we're looking at.
So first of all, we should say it was meant to be an actual headboard to sit at the head of a bed.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're Peggy Guggenheim, this would be your headboard.
Okay.
It is about 5 by 4 feet. So
it's pretty big.
While it is a sculpture, technically speaking, it reads more like a traditional painting.
Yes.
On a wall.
Or furniture. A type of furniture, like decorative furniture. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why?
I actually think, I don't want to get sidetracked, but I do think his work has a link to furniture and craft
Okay.
We discussed craft
Yes.
and how it is a little bit different than art, but he perfectly shows that it overlaps. That
Yes.
those lines are blurry.
Yes. And we can also think of this work in layers, like a painting.
Mhm.
Still a sculpture, though. But it reads that way
Mhm.
because while it is the same material, silver, it's all silver, it is made up of layers, like a painting.
Or like a collage. So if you've ever made
Yes.
a collage at home, you cut out a piece, maybe that's the background. You cut out another piece, that could be the foreground or the middle ground. You cut out another piece, that's the foreground,
Yeah.
right? So these are, while it may not be three separate pieces, it's actually a lot of different pieces, but
Yeah.
it does have that layered effect, although it is three-dimensional. So depending on where you're standing, it does look different like a sculpture. You're just not able to circle it entirely in the round like you would an Augusta Savage piece.
Right.
Or it's not like his mobile pieces, which you would watch float and move in space. You are looking at it from only a few different angles.
180 degrees. We move around it
Mhm.
as much as we can. So this is a very organic composition. The lines are very organic. They're hardly ever a straight line. They're very curvy, very soft.
But metal.
Yeah, but that's our Sandy. He
Yeah.
makes a hard medium look soft and playful
Just
and
like his hard
approachable.
gristled hands. And how funny he is. He takes his hard gristled hands and he hands you a little duck or a little jewelry.
Oh, stop. So it's basically a circular composition,
Mhm.
but all of the forms within it are spilling outside of it. So we have a combination of sea and land,
Mhm.
fauna. So we have maybe a fern, some seaweed. It feels spontaneous.
Mhm.
First glance, right? You don't think about the fact that this probably took hours to do all the things he had to do to the silver. Okay?
Yeah. You
But-
do not get the sense at all, listeners, that he is working with metal and bending metal and hammering metal. It feels like an illustration that
Right.
was drawn like very whimsically.
Exactly. Like, oh, here's a fern.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to add another fern. Oh, there's a fish. Oh, whoops, there's a flower.
Yeah, it looks like something you would doodle in like
Exactly.
10 minutes on the phone.
Yes. The lines just kind of guide you. They're curved. It's just easy to just get lost in it.
That easy flow of the curved lines is really, it's also tense because of the way he hammers it and the way it glitters and the way it
Okay.
kind of reflects light back at you. It's a very chameleon-like piece because it does stick off the wall. There is a shadow behind it. So that whimsical drawing in the wrong light, you can get lost. You don't really know what's going on.
So because it's off the wall, I'm glad you mentioned that. It adds another layer to it where we can get lost and we're not 100% sure what we're looking at because of the shadows. The composition itself doesn't 100% coalesce. And I think the lighting and the shadows adds a whole other layer to it.
Right. While it is a static wall piece, it does move. I mean, it really does move in the sense that shadows weave through it, right? And then, like we mentioned before, the reflective metals, it makes it difficult to know what you're looking at. He was able to bring in that kinetic work that he was so interested in into this very static piece, this piece that just hangs on a wall like a painting.
Something that may be overlooked and that I only thought of when I was looking at some of these detail pictures, which we're going to share with you, listeners, is that he used screws to keep this piece together. He didn't solder the metal.
Oh, he
so
didn't solder it down and use screws.
Right. So what is that, Russell? What is soldering?
Soldering is basically like a mini welding. Like
so you would
welding
melt
metal
you
together.
would,
Yeah.
You would melt the metal together
Yeah.
and then it's combined. It's all one piece. Well, this is really smart that he used screws instead because if a part gets damaged, you can just easily remove it, make another one, and reattach it.
But also, I think maybe the screws are a little bit looser than the soldering.
Yeah.
So it does move a little. It wiggles a little. If you got big stompy feet, you're stomping on by, it's going to wiggle on you. Going to get a little disco ball effect going.
A little bit bumping.
A little bump and grind.
Okay. All right.
We won't get into it.
Elephant in
Yeah.
the room. Let's talk about it, okay? It was a headboard for Peggy Guggenheim.
A notorious playgirl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there may have been some bumping and grinding. We're going to leave it at that.
The
We're gonna
disco
move
ball
on.
might have been reflecting a lot of moonlight in the middle of the night. But okay, I mean, you don't have to be engaged in amorous activities to really appreciate this, right? I can imagine looking up at this at night before you go to bed. It hangs right above your head, and as you're going to sleep, if you're like me, you have all this residual, like fragmented pieces of the day popping into your brain before you go to sleep. And I can imagine how meditative it would be to see the moonlight bouncing off of the Venetian canals. Fuck you for having that kind of money. And bounce back onto this beautiful Dreamcatcher-like composition.
Yes.
And I say Dreamcatcher because it does catch your dreams. Like, dreams are fleeting and they change. And this piece is fleeting and it changes, even though it's static. And that connects for me, looking at water in the evening, looking at stars at night, that connects to the magic of synchronicity. These moments that you come by just by chance, and how magical those things can be if your eyes are open and you're willing to accept those things.
Yes, this piece is one that you can get lost in.
Yeah.
You kind of lose yourself in the lines. Your eyes kind of follow the lines, and then you end up here and you end up there. That's also why it's really hard to talk about. There's not one central point.
You know, if you're a human, you can recognize that experience, just being in the world and seeing something like the moon and the sun out at the same time,
right.
Or just seeing it happen to catch a shooting star when you're just looking, up in the night sky. Those are these magical moments that stick with you. And I think like Calder's ability to be playful, his ability to be open to that experience and open to just having fun, I think allows, and not, honestly, not being tied down. I mean, he made jewelry, he made mobiles. Some of his mobiles were fucking weird. They're not like the ones you think.
Right.
But he does a really good job of it, right? So just him being so playful, I think allows for him to step in and out of these different artistic styles and just be really open to whatever comes of that piece, whatever comes out of that piece. I can imagine him hammering away at this metal and being like, okay, I really like this. Let me keep doing this. And we'll just see what happens with it.
This might seem like a stretch, but honestly, I feel like that same drive could be applied to Peggy. Yes, she was wealthy. Yes, she was privileged, but she was open to making those connections.
Right.
I mean, how many of her peers in the same social economical class would have been like, ew, surrealist art? Ew.
I'm just going to go to the Kentucky Derby and break my monocles.
Okay, that's not where I was going with that. Okay. But basically, how many of those people would have just turned their noses up at it and I'm not spending my money on that?
Yeah, I'm not hanging out with fucking Marcel Duchamp, weirdo, no.
Actually, speaking of Marcel, Peggy was super lucky to have met Marcel. Yeah. And that's all. I feel like
that was her sun and moon on the equator moment.
Marcel was and is the sun and moon to Peggy Guggenheim.
Yeah. But you have to get on the boat to get there, right?
True. Right. She got on the boat. Yeah. She was open to it. And I think that is why these things happened to her, aside from the money, aside from the privilege, aside from all of that. Peggy was open to making those connections. She was open to the magic of synchronicity.
So, I mean, this piece has grown on me. I walk past a Calder.
Hey.
I'll walk past a Sandman any day of the week. I do really enjoy this work. By the way, listeners, whoever keeps up his webpage,
oh my gosh,
they have everything.
Numero uno.
They have everything.
On point.
Do yourself a favor, dig into his work. There is just so much work that he's made that is all very different and is all very magical.
I've spent a lot of time with this piece. And my first impression was shiny, like I said before. But that's the child in me, right? It's the child in me gasps in delight at the sight of it, but the adult in me stays for the layers and the complexities that the material has to offer.
Yeah, the kinetic sort of ambience to it.
Well, the way that Sandy has handled it is just is brilliant. And I stay for it. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. And if you're there for it, listeners, or if you're not there for it, listeners, please let us know what you thought of this piece or any of the other work that we've discussed in previous episodes.
What you did or didn't like about it, and if it would go in your museum.
If you're new to Art Slice, you can also send in any of the art assignments from previous episodes, and we will post them to our website and our Instagram page.
You don't need to be an artist to send them in. It's fine if you are.
It's just a way of rubbing those creative juices together.
Stop saying rubbing.
Send them all to artslicepod@gmail.com.
Listeners, we love hearing from you. We try to respond to everything as soon as we can. So if you'd like to talk about a work that inspired you or you'd like to suggest a topic or artwork, or you just want to say hi, we'd love to hear from you.
Honestly, these episodes are not easy to make, and your messages put smiles on our tired, sleepy faces. If you're enjoying Art Slice and you want to help us out, you can do any or all of the following.
You can buy a 3-pack of Art Slice stickers. You can throw a few bucks at us on Buy Me a Coffee. You can subscribe to us on all of the things.
Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube.
And you could write a review on your pod player of choice. All of this helps us please the algorithm god.
Yes.
And or goddesses.
And actually, listeners, because of all your subscribing and reviewing, we've been on the top of the art history thing for a few weeks now.
On top.
I mean, not the top, but there. And we're in the mix. And that's all due to you, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Last week, we released our Art Slice sampler. It's up on our podcast feed, and it's on our YouTube with pretty little images.
Yes, and it's very shareable, might I add. So
like a sampler.
Yeah. If you have a friend who you think might enjoy the show, but they don't really have the time to commit to a full hour of one of our full episodes, this would be the thing to send them.
We also wanted to give a special thanks to photographer Steph Black for letting us use her images of Sandy's silver bedhead.
It's so hard to find good images, listeners. You have no idea. So thank you so much, Steph. The other Steph, not you, Steph. But also thank you, Steph.
Okay.
Thank
you, Steph.
So that's going to do it for us today. We will see you next time, listeners.
And no.
Your
kid could not have sculpted that.
Bye.
Bye.